Chill here with Sirius Talis Moon. This is Jupiter hour. It's Venus night. And the moon is in 5 degrees Leo with the mean heaven 13 degrees Leo Sol, still 18, about to turn 19 degrees in Scorpio and ascendant. Just crossed Venus at 9 degrees Scorpio. Mars in Sag, Jupiter procioning in the degrees before it's turning retrograde. And this is a little bit of an energy reading. And it started as there was an immediate reckoning from the dead. And again, this language with this aspects to Neptune might be poetic, but whoever it's going to resonate with are probably going to get what I'm talking about. There was an immediate reckoning from the dead. And the dream and there is a lot about the dream is the real and the real is the dream. And the dream was exposed to someone, and that someone responded to the dream as the real and took action in reality on that dream, and then the dream became real. Now they saw through, they crossed a certain threshold that they were not supposed to cross and encountered a certain reality that they clearly deciphered and pull up from the dead into the living. Even the dead was baffled by this. There was a sense of loss of communication, atrocities, like things that are off that threshold. Okay? Think about the gate where a person crosses the gate and goes back from that gate, or a border. There are dangers and risks, and that person that crossed through reality saw that and experienced that, it came through that, and they could no longer contact. It was meant to sever the ties between that person and the person behind the dream, or the person in the dead. Because there was too much to see or too much to reckon with. Now, people around began to gather and decipher that dream because they were having ripples of that reality. And their approximations would have to drop something that would completely purify that gate. Think about the MK Ultra, Montauk, or Monarch programming, and how they create vortices, or they don't create, they tap into vortices in reality and try to bring them to lower frequency. Both the technology and the consciousness operate on frequency, and there are attempts to corrupt that frequency to control over the gate or the vortices or the portals. But from within these portals, even from the dead, just the desire to be seen, just the desire to be appreciated, or just to be seen, to be felt, to have connection, to have something that's real underneath the veil, they have to remove that veil. And for the living, they could only operate within the certain portal. So they could try to expose the, wait a second, there is food here. Wait a second, that really creepy place is actually exciting. wait a second, there are minerals here. There is nourishment here. Wait a second, there's something for you here. And it operated by almost locking someone down. Think about the fact, like, for example, I was in Netherlands during the lockdown. And it was a very strange experience because the bubbling streets of Amsterdam that usually are flocked with travelers were simply empty. And I was channeling through and so on and so forth. And it was something that was made possible, like even the price of the flight back then, that was made possible around Christmas in the climate, that was made possible, that wouldn't have otherwise been accessible. But there's also, it's kind of like wait a second, there is also abundance here, and yet the people could operate only within a certain framework that lowers the frequency on the Kundalini energy, sexual energy. And still, the Kundalini energy always wants to burst, and it bursts into the truth. This is how we would have human traffickers talking against the WHO. This is how we would have people that participated in human trafficking, organ harvesting to appease the interests of Russia and create peace. Okay? Risking their lives to create peace. Okay? This is something that was so corrupt, and the traveling between portals, there's something Plutonian, it's kind of like, there's a gold mine here, but oh no, that's human trafficking. And then, but they're whores. No, they're not. But it's actually nourishing food here. It can't be nourishing if you treat it as a hoe. And still the desire where people are said like, wait a second, there is food here, there is nourishing here. There's a place for you. But it's kind of like, well, you have to strip away the stripping away of the soul. And the reckoning that came from the dead, I saw literally somebody was looking at a ring, and this particular something that was not a Peter ring, not a human trafficking ring. Okay, so I was looking at the ring, and it was kind of like they were talking about someone. They were speaking the truth. They was looking at the ring. It's kind of like, but wait a second. Within that society, within the living, they could not be, which is why they died. Because the soul was crossing a threshold, and I saw that a threshold has been crossed. A threshold has been crossed. And now within that society, everybody that crossed that threshold got assassinated, dead, sacrificed. And yet everybody tried to say, there's food for you here, there's a place for you here. Like, this is your home. It's a strange land, and it's a foreign land, it's a abundant land, and it's a this and it's a that. Well, wait a second. And he keep trying to traffic people into that land, and to lover boy people into that land. And the threshold is kind of, they keep seeing everybody as a whore, also the man or the intersex or whatnot. And at the same time, when people say, wait a second, maybe there is no place for me here, maybe there is no food for me here, then it's like, no, there is food, wait a second. Because there is a secret just waiting to unfold and be released, that if people will find out, they're like, oh no, but they already know. And there is deep warm feelings, but yet the paradigms are those of the corruption of the gates. Because the gate to the enlightenment in that society went through rape and torture. And then people try to say, well, there is enlightenment, there is light, there is food, there is this, there is that. But the gate needs to be deprogrammed and decorrupted, not because it is sexual, but because it was through rape. Mm-hmm. It was also kind of showing me, wait a second, you talk about the soil in Africa. Black people come here for the abundance. And they don't know about certain things to do with the sexuality. But wait, it's actually exciting. Black women come here and there was, because for me it showed up as the Netherlands, but it's going to be shown to different people as different ways. Think about the black women that would come to Europe to immigrate, to find a job, to get away from the violent men. Wait, thank you. Okay, to get away from the violent men. But yet the men would still see them, and unfortunately I saw testimonies of particularly black women that were traveling in Europe, and they were complaining about, the melanin sparky notes. And it's kind of like, well, it's not that everybody thinks that they're whores. It's just that everybody thinks that everybody is a whore. And then they just celebrate whoredom. But it's like, wait a second. That is because the gate to the Kundalini rise, to the sexual energy, went through rape and trafficking. And there was this mixed vision where there is everything here, and people come here, and yet there is a corrupt gate that sees everybody as a whore. And I had a dream, but I was like locked in Netherlands, and I didn't have money to come back, and I wasn't sure, like, maybe if I take a flight today, then I still have money, and so on and so forth. Then I was shown like things that came from elements in my real life. I was like, wait a second, there is food here. There is there is a place to stay. But everybody was seeing everybody as a whore, which was what I escaped from in Israel. When it came to the workplaces, to the academia, and and then when people said no, we actually are human beings, and this thing is actually not compatible with food, with nourishment, with having enough. It causes people to always have to steal, but they don't actually. And then I woke up and I said, what if they planted, are there eucalyptus trees in Netherlands? What if they planted eucalyptus trees? Because eucalyptus trees, they dry the swamps. And this entire thing was something like very lifeful, very vibrant, and somebody has to go through the purification of shedding the rape realities. And that has to do with MK Ultra. That has to do with corrupt portals. That has to do with why the reckoning came from the dead and somebody had to cross the threshold. But that threshold, the way back and forth, was rape. And that a person, because they crossed the threshold and they saw into the MK, they were raped. And horrifically. So much so that the ties was severed because there was too much to when it came to the reckoning. Okay, and that created crime, corruption, people growing as traffickers, ritual abuse, and like everything was corrupt. And then everybody tries to say, wait, but there is enough, there is food, there is housing. Um, Now, for me, I saw it as, you know, the personal way that I saw it, but for other people it might resonate because this project operates all around the world, and that reckoning and purified love came from the dead. Because in that realm, the love is there, but everything around sexuality had to be corrupt. And then showing love in the living was created at this country's North Korea type of thingy. And so much so that there were even a wonder or reckoning with death. Like, should I die to cross the portal to where love is? And then access to that portal, where in the afterlife there is deep love, and bringing it into the living, but in that, and trying to constantly purify the place where the gate to enlightenment was rape. Ket is particularly talking about Monarch or MK Ultra. And the path to recovery, the path to love, the path to sensuality goes through the decorruption of the gates. Because the gates is not about the creation of portals. It's about the destruction of the experience of passing through them to try to control the real estate. Ma?